Welcome back to MC Recaps. Today I'm going to explain the movie The Hudsucker Proxy, released in the year 1994. On December 1, 1958, the board of directors of Hudsucker Industries hold a meeting in their New York headquarters. They discuss how their profits and the stock price have never been so high. The company is doing better than ever. One might think that the president of the company, Warren Hudsucker, is overjoyed at the company's success. But in contrast, he gets on top of the table amidst the board meeting and throws himself out the 45th floor window. After the suicide, the board of directors does not waste a second before discussing future plans for the company. As per Hudsucker's will, his share of the company's stock will be sold to the public in exactly a month. Sidney J. Musburger is the vice president of the company. He, along with the other board members, do not want to give up such a large percentage of their company's share to the public. To retain their control of the company, they will have to buy Hudsucker's part of the share, but because of their stock price skyrocketing, they cannot afford it. When the board brainstorms ideas, Musburger proposes one of his own. He suggests they temporarily appoint an obviously incompetent person as the president of the company, which is sure to depress the stock price. After the price decreases enough for them to be able to buy the remaining stocks, they will fire the new president and run the company as they normally would. Now they only have to find an eligible candidate to be the president of the company. The same day, a business college graduate from Muncie, Norval Barnes, arrives in New York City looking for a job. Although he was on the dean's list and was the best student in his class, Barnes has had a hard time finding a job, since all of them require a minimum of 5 years experience. After unsuccessfully looking for a job at business firms the entire day, he decides to join Hudsucker Industries as a mailroom clerk. The job is difficult and pays less, but Barnes has no other way to pay his bills. On his first day at work, Barnes is briefed about his position as a clerk, half of which he doesn't understand. But one thing he is sure about is that the blue mail is the most important mail of them all and should be handed directly to the vice president of the company. All the clerks dread getting the mail and try to avoid taking it to Musburger. Since it is Barnes's first day, they give him the job. Barnes carefully enters the elevator going from the basement directly to the topmost floor. On his way, he makes friends with the elevator operator, Buzz. When people see the blue mail in his hands, they make way for him. When he tells Musburger's secretary about the mail, she falls unconscious because of stress. Finally, he enters Musburger's room, but instead of the letter, he shows him a circle drawn on a tiny piece of paper. Barnes believes that the circle is a great innovative idea that the company could profit off. He has trouble explaining the actual idea and just says that the circle is for kids. The vice president doesn't listen to what he is saying and simply asks him to sit on his chair. When Barnes reluctantly does so, he declares him the new president of the company only because of his looks. However, when Barnes says he is a college graduate, Musburger starts to question his decision. If Barnes turns out to be a good president, then the entire purpose of his hiring would be useless. Moments later, Barnes accidentally sets fire to an important piece of paperwork and breaks the window while trying to set it off. Musburger realizes he is actually an idiot and hires him as the president. Barnes's pictures are printed in the newspapers with exaggerated headlines about his incompetence. Soon the stock price goes down as the board had predicted. Every time Barnes meets Musburger, he presents his genius idea about the circle. But because he is incapable of explaining what exactly the circle is, he is always dismissed. Somewhere else in the Manhattan Argus newspaper headquarters, the reporters are eager to find out more about the new president, who had never been heard of till now. An award-winning reporter, Amy, is appointed to secretly find out all the information about Barnes. Next, she follows him to a bar and uses her feminine skills to try to seduce him. When that doesn't work, she pretends to fall unconscious, urging him to bring her back to his office. On getting there, Amy lies to him about being from his hometown and complains about not getting a job in the big city. Barnes sees himself and Amy and feels bad for her, hence he calls the head clerk to ask him if there is a vacancy in the mailroom. However, the workers in the mailroom do not know he has been promoted to president. They yell at him for not coming to work. So instead Barnes makes her his secretary. Amy accepts it happily, hoping to find out more about him. After the meeting she thinks of him as an imbecile and writes a story about him being unprofessional. She also starts to suspect that his hiring is a part of a bigger plan, because he is nothing like a president should be. The next day her article spreads like wildfire and the company's reputation takes a downward plunge. Alongside it the stock price plummets, much to Musburger's satisfaction. When Barnes reads the article about himself he is furious. He calls Amy to his office and orders her to write a letter to the reporter who wrote the article. He assumes the reporter is just an ugly woman who wants to be one of the men but is just compensating for her lack of beauty. While doing so, an angered Amy slaps him in the face and walks away. That night when everyone has left she returns to the office and goes through Barnes's belongings. She finds his old clerk uniform in the closet but dismisses it. She also looks through his appointment notes but finds them empty. Then she enters a room reserved for only authorized personnel. There she meets the building's repairman, Moses. His job is to operate the tower's giant clock, whose interior lies just in between the president and the vice president's office. Since Moses is always near the offices, he knows about almost everything that happens in the company. Amy tests him by asking why the board decided to hire Barnes as the president when he is clearly ineligible. Moses tells her that she, like the board, is misjudging Barnes. He has a few tricks up his sleeve that will surprise everyone. He also informs her everything about the board's plan to reduce the stock price, using Barnes as a proxy for Hudsucker. Amy finally understands the truth behind Barnes's employment and tells the story to her boss. However, he claims they cannot print such a huge story purely out of speculation. He asks her to bring in facts, figures, and charts of her story, and only then will it be printed in their newspaper. The next day Barnes brings Amy to a ball organized by the company. Several large investors of the company have also come to the party. Barnes meets them for the first time but doesn't leave a good impression on any. They mistreat him for being the reason the price of the stock went down. Later Amy and Barnes are alone on the balcony. After talking to him for a while, she realizes he is a bright and good-hearted fellow who is naive about the company politics but still wants the best for it. The two kiss at the end of the night. The following day Barnes has an important board meeting where he presents his genius idea for the first time in practicality. After researching people's financial conditions and needs, he thinks that a hula hoop will be the best next Hudsucker product since it is affordable and fun. Everyone on the board thinks it is an awful idea, which makes it perfect for them. Musburger hopes that when the product fails they will have the ideal reason to remove Barnes from his post. They start the production of the hula hoop immediately. At first the stock price remains the same, as no customers seem to be interested in the plain and boring plastic circle. In hopes of increasing the sales they decrease the price of the hoops. Even after decreasing it to 25 cents no one buys it. Store owners start to give it away for free with any purchase. Suddenly one day a group of school students come across a kid playing with a hoop that he found thrown outside a toy store. Seeing him enjoy the hoop, all of them ask their parents for one. The stores that were once empty are now swarmed with kids asking for hula hoops. It soon becomes a big success and pushes Hudsucker's stock price to new heights, much to Musburger's annoyance. As the popularity of the hula hoop increases, Barnes's popularity also soars. People start calling him a genius inventor and reporters begin to follow him everywhere. The popularity gets to Barnes's head and he turns into the typical arrogant businessman. He gets together with models and actresses who only want him for his money. Amy is stunned by the new version of him. With time he loses his passion for innovation and gets busy with his extravagant life. In the meantime, Musburger and the board are distressed at the fact that their plan didn't work. Amy confronts Barnes about his changed behavior and resigns from her post as his secretary. Following that, the elevator boy Buzz pitches a new invention, the flexi straw, which allows people to bend their straws while drinking. However, an arrogant Barnes calls the idea worthless and fires him for wasting his time. Buzz is disheartened that his old friend has now turned into a ruthless person. That day Musburger finds out about Amy's true identity and tells Barnes about it. Musburger has also goad Buzz to claim that the hula hoop idea was his and that Barnes stole from him. He tells Barnes that in the next board meeting they will probably fire him for stealing ideas. Amy knows that the hula hoop idea was Barnes's from the beginning. She tries to keep her editor from printing the story, but Musburger has bribed him as well. In a fit of rage she resigns from her position somewhere else. Beaten Barnes gets drunk in a bar and calls Amy. She tries to motivate him to fight for what the truth is, but he dismisses her. Following the encounter he bumps into Buzz and a crowd of people who call him an idea stealer. When he returns to the office that day, he has lost his will to live as Hudsucker did at the beginning of the movie. He wears his old clerk uniform that he had still kept in the closet moments later. He jumps out the window. However, the repairman Moses stops the clock and thus stops time to save Barnes. He knows Barnes is a good man at heart and has a chance to do better in life. Mr. Hudsucker as an angel comes flying to Barnes and reminds him of the blue letter that he had forgotten to give Musburger on his first day at work. The letter is still inside his pocket. He reads it and finally finds out that Mr. Hudsucker has changed his will before committing suicide. In the letter he grants the next president the right to the shares that belong to him. Initially he had thought that Musburger would receive the shares, but since he elected Barnes as the president, the shares go to him. After the encounter, Barnes happily runs to the bar and reconciles with Amy. Because he has the right to 50 of the company, he continues working as the president. Meanwhile, Musburger goes crazy after finding out that a little mistake cost him his position. Eventually he is institutionalized. In the last scene, Barnes is seen pitching his next big idea for Hudsucker Industries, the Frisbee. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also leave a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.